Once again, in the retro gaming community, of course there's
drama.
Just imagine you're on Twitter.
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
Which is one of the shittest places to be on. But, you know, there's sometimes interesting stuff on there. I go to Twitter kind of to do like a combination of, I guess, like my shit posting and gaming stuff. Because it's Twitter. So, anyway, imagine having an opinion on the price of something and then it turning into a debate that's about like licensing. Which you never asked for in the first place. Like, I was literally just giving my opinion on the price of this thing, which should not be priced what it is, but it turned into this whole debacle. Alright, well, we're gonna go back to Twitter here. Actually, that's it. Okay. Well then, I guess we've fixed that problem. Ha! Okay. Right now, I want to talk about this. The diabolical tweet that ruined Neptune clone. So, for those of you who don't know, some really smart, creative guys were able to put together a Sega Neptune.
So, quick history lesson. The Sega Neptune was a canceled 90s console. Genesis plus 32X and 1. Sega scrapped it for the Saturn, but prototypes existed. It would have retailed for right under $200. Today, thanks to a community of modders, they were able to recreate it.
I mean, sure, it's very convenient. So, Sega had like articles out. I mean, this was a legit thing that was going to happen. There was at least a couple prototypes built. It's actually not exactly known, but there had to be at least a handful of them.
The number of prototype consoles that actually exist isn't known, but my guess is that it was more than one at least. But the one that everybody's familiar with is the one that you see here on Sega Retro. Interestingly enough, the claims are that there's nothing inside of the prototype console, except wooden plastic.
What you're seeing on the screen right now. It's a great replica of the prototype, and it actually does what the prototype did and what the retail model would have done if it was ever released. But here's my problem with it. These guys on eBay are selling these things for, let's go down here and take a look, $2,499. Okay, so I saw this, it just showed up in my eBay feed because, you know, everything's an algorithm now. And I said, I fail to see how this is justifiable. That's literally my tweet. That's all I tweeted. I fail to see how this is justifiable because it's not. And on top of that, real quick, this guy over here, Posam the Great, he's the one who actually engineered the hybrid board that works with, like, uses actual Sega chips and works with the 32X components to create a Genesis that plays 32X games board. Back to this, $2,500. Like, what? Who? Why? Like, why? And so anyway, all I did was just tweet this, okay? This is the important part for you guys to understand. First, I just made a tweet that was criticizing the price. I don't see how it's justifiable. You know, after reading your Toasty Balls comment, well, I wasn't sure if he was being sarcastic or not. And he says, LMFAO, damn, I love that tweet. Nah, building the Neptune is a lot of work. I agree. I'd say it's justifiable. The artisan who took their name or their time to meticulously build it deserves to get fairly compensated. But bro, you're talking about a $2,000 compensation, okay? And nothing against what he's saying, that's his opinion, but you're talking about $2,000 of compensation for building this.
So how much does it actually cost to build a Sega Neptune? Well, it's around $500 or $600 depending on how you get the shell. Apparently the shell is the most expensive part. But you're also going to need a donor Genesis board and 32X, as well as a custom PCB to combine the parts onto. So price will vary depending on where you source your parts.
Like, it's not $2,000 hard to build, okay? Then I said, for conversation's sake, why though? It seems asinine, and it's not a licensed product. Really, anyone can build it, maybe shittier, but it could be better too. Either way, 500, maybe 800, profit margin. 2,500 is insane, in my humble opinion, when you could just buy a tower of power for $250 to $300.
Right now, this is pretty consistent. You're looking at anywhere from $120 to $200 for the cost of a 32X, but $150 on average, or about $300 to $350 for a stack. But it's also not hard to find better deals than that. And to be able to play everything in its original configuration, the way that it was meant to be, for a lot less money just makes more sense to me. But this raises even bigger problems.
My 2 cents. Because you can buy the real Sega hardware like $300, $350. So why would it make sense to build a pirated Neptune that doesn't even exist and pay $2,500 for it? Like, to me, I don't see the logic in it. But he's being super cool, and we're having this conversation. And so it continues on. And he said, so I'm going to stick with his chain right now. He said, that's valid, but at the end of the day, there's enthusiasts and collectors who would certainly and have paid that amount. It's like the same argument as to why buy a tower when I could just buy a handheld emulator that could play all the Sega games and then some. And see, I kind of disagree there, because you're buying a tower of power to play on real hardware. That's the whole point. It's the whole point. Playing on real hardware and native, like on a CRT or even if it's on an LCD. And I said, I guess I'm just too old to see the logic in it, or lack thereof. Like in the 90s, it would have been killer to have a Neptune, but now it's like neat. And $2,500, like, I understand what you mean and you're not wrong, but bah humbug or something. It's basically high quality China console debauchery. Oh, this is the other one. He says, nothing China about it. These use original components with integrated 3BP for optimal video quality. The PCB and the shell were meticulously designed by a team of enthusiasts from all over the world. And which I totally commend the people who put this thing together, because it's a fantastic project. It's a really neat project. And then he says, very strange comment, or they, whatever, I don't know. And I said, why is it a strange comment? China made trash pirated Mega Drives all day long. In my humble opinion, this is even worse. Selling a non-licensed, technically stolen intellectual property and trademark infringement Neptune. It's neat, but 2.5K is insane and greedy in my humble opinion. Selling someone else's unlicensed work. At one point, the person selling it on eBay shows up and shows a picture of 24 bids, $2,471. Okay? Like, that was supposed to convince me that it's totally justifiable. And I'm like, nah. Even Destiny FOMO said they're insane.
One of the other big concerns that this raises is the use of 32X boards and the components. I mean, once they're gone, and it's not like they're super plentiful anyway. And this has the potential to do more damage than people think.
They're insane. It's not, they're likely keeping the post up for SEO. That's just comedy. Yep. Seeing the price, like, jump scared me with the price reveal. What the yikes. Bah! Yeah, exactly. Alright, and if you guys don't know who Destiny FOMO is, she's like a hardcore gamer girl. She has like a good gauge on things, so her saying they're insane just backs up exactly what I'm saying. Like, it's ridiculous. I get into this next chain here. Well, so this guy trolls me, right? Like, the dude literally comes to my tweet I guess it's a small world on Twitter, comes to my tweet, didn't even know he was on Twitter, didn't tag him or anything, and then, you know, does the mind-blown thing with that. And I'm just like, okay, bro, it could be shill bidding too. People do that type of crap all the time, especially with retro stuff. So it's shady. And then I'm just gonna presume that this guy right here might know that other person and they told him, or somebody told him though. Somebody saw the tweet, whatever. I understand how it works, like that you are using basically recycled Sega parts, but it doesn't change the fact that it's, at the very least, it's a dress infringement. He says, it's strange for the reason I stated comparing the project to the average piece of junk on AliExpress is something. The project license has no restriction against resale in this form. I agree that $2,500 is high, but people can ask what they want, doesn't mean anything. I said at this point the comparison problem is about licensing and pricing, not build quality. AliExpress junk and custom Neptune both share the same core problem. They're unlicensed repros of Sega IPs. One may be polished, the other landfill fodder, but legal point of view, cut from the same cloth. And then he says, we're perhaps getting nitpicky at this point, but the PCB is a 100% original design. There was nothing repro there because it never existed. But it is repro because the Neptune did exist. Original PCB or not, the product as a whole is still trading on Sega's trademark, likeness, and IP. The fact that the Neptune never existed is exactly why this falls under unlicensed derivative work. The system architecture is designed to run licensed Sega hardware, too. And he said, I didn't realize I was conversing with an IP lawyer. I said, I'm just educated, but I tagged John Diamonin, who used to work for Arcade 1-Up and was like their licensing guy, and who has like a long-running history of licensing in the video game industry, including Capcom, Sega, Sony. I tagged him and I said, but John is an actual licensing expert and he agrees. John says the product 100% violates trade dress. And then, is this legal? I mean, that was pretty funny because I didn't see that coming. And then I said, Diamond, am I wrong here? And he said that price is some bullshit and unlicensed. Now, see, here's the thing. I didn't care. I don't care about people putting stuff like this together and selling it. Look, it's a fine line, okay? But what I'm saying, my criticism was of the price point of it because I think it's ridiculous, and I can tell you why I think it's ridiculous in so many different words.
I fully support and think that modding projects like this are really cool, but the problem comes in when people start buying everything up to make these and resell them for insanely high prices. This is another big problem no one wants to talk about: donor boards. To build one of these Neptunes, you need original Sega Genesis and 32X parts. That means every build literally cannibalizes working vintage hardware. The Genesis and 32X aren't exactly growing on trees anymore. Every time someone sacrifices one for that homemade Neptune, that's one less original system left for collectors, historians, or even new fans who just want to experience the Sega hardware the way it was meant to be. The long-term results of which are guaranteed to be bad. So not only are these $2,500 builds overpriced, they're draining the supply of real vintage consoles. That's damaging to preservation. Bought one for $2,500? Congrats. You just paid $2,500 to make retro gaming worse. At least that's my opinion. I mean, what do you think? But it's so cool, it's so convenient. Well, what about warranty? What about longevity? What's gonna happen when something breaks on one of those $2,500 builds? Well, what other options do we have? Well, actually, there's an FPGA-based Neptune that is being developed right now. But it's emulation. Well, so is the Atari 2600 Plus and 7800 Plus, but guess what? It still plays the original games. It would be better to have an FPGA-based system that can play the original carts versus something that has completely cannibalized the original hardware.
And then for these guys to like start showing up, who, I mean, to me, this guy seems like he's trying to argue for it.
Now, just to make sure that everybody has context here, my original tweet was just criticizing the price point. I mean, it is an insanely ridiculous price point. And then they took $250 off as if that was supposed to make it better. And clearly I'm not the only person that thinks that this is absolutely ridiculous. But the fact that the seller showed up into the tweet and then kind of started trolling me and getting defensive about my criticism of the price was just weird and seems totally unprofessional in my opinion. And him trying to justify the market cost of these things because of one bid that went for allegedly $2,400, that's like saying somebody bid up a Sega 32X to $1,000 and that justifies the market value of it when everybody else is selling them for $200. And on top of that, we get into the whole licensing thing, and John D, a licensing expert who actually worked for Sega, literally says that it violates trade dress. Well, after that, I got blocked by the seller. Whatever. Him blocking me just 100% shows that he's guilty and knows he's in the wrong, in my opinion, because the issue was the price to begin with. Like, what am I supposed to do? Thank you for cannibalizing all these consoles and then reselling them to the retro gaming community and collectors for $2,500?
People can sell it for that much if they want to, but it doesn't make it like legal, or it doesn't make it like justifiable that they're selling it for that price. Straight up, they're profiting off of Sega's design now. And that's something that happens in the retro gaming community quite often.
Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you then.